Hi, and welcome to day 19 of Living Your Happier Life. Today we're going to talk about the power of stillness and silence. Getting still, getting silent is what really allows us to rise above that daily chaos of our life and to really find more centeredness and peace. And I don't know how you felt yesterday after that meditation and your automatic writing. Maybe you did that this morning. Did you feel a little more still? And when we do get still like that, that's when we connect more to that whole feeling of unity, of oneness in creation. Now, it sounds fabulous. It sounds heavenly. So why don't we do this more often? Well, the reason for most of us is time. We just feel like we don't have enough time. We don't have the bandwidth to add anything more to our crazy schedules. I don't have time to meditate. Are you kidding? Well, I can relate to that. I feel I understand very much overwhelm. But even though it seems like time is the problem and why we don't meditate, the real problem is something else. And it's our inability to prioritize what we do with our time. My very first meditation teacher years ago used to say, if you're too busy to meditate, you're too busy. He knew that we need to set ourselves up every day with the right energy. And when we set ourselves up with the right energy, our days go so much more smoothly. It's like, think of it this way. If you feel like you're too busy to stop and get gas for your car, you're eventually going to end up stranded on the side of the road and you aren't going to be able to go anywhere. And it's the same way in our lives. When we don't prioritize our life, we end up running out of gas. We do not have our tanks full. So meditating, practicing silence and meditation is a way that we can really fill ourselves up so that we can handle our day more effectively. I've found that when I meditate first thing in the morning, that my day goes so much more smoothly. I get through things more quickly. There's a lot of research, as I've said earlier, on meditation showing the benefits of it. There's some research by Dr. Paul Ekman at UC San Francisco Medical Center, and he tested Buddhist monks. These were expert meditators, and he found that their meditation practice, it calmed down the brain's amygdala. And the amygdala is the on and off switch for our adrenaline, our fight or flight response. And the monks were much more serene while they were meditating, but that serenity, that fight or flight response, that feeling of upset, it stayed with them. The lack of that stayed with them throughout the day. Their calmness stayed with them throughout the day, no matter what happened to them. So what's happening during your meditation is you're training your brain basically to be in that regular space of silence, and it comes with you outside of your meditation. It's the thing that I've found that helps align me beyond anything with my highest good. And I want to share with you a little story about how the power of silence affected my life dramatically. The year was 1994, and I was totally burned out. I was what I called a road warrior. I was a speaker going from city to city to city, teaching seminars on self-esteem and on stress management. And I would do these seminars for about 200 people. And every morning, I would get downstairs to the hotel ballroom, and I would set up starting at 7 in the morning. And then I would speak and teach from 9 until 5. And then I would pack up, and I would get on the road and around maybe 6:30, and I would drive 3 hours to the next city. And I was doing all of this while I was in 3-inch heels. And I was a burned out wreck. And one day, a very dear friend of mine came to me and said, "Marcy, you look terrible." Those weren't actually the words she used. She used worse words than that. And she said, "I'm going to take you away with me on a silent 7-day meditation retreat." And I looked at her and I said, "You are crazy. I don't do silence. I'm a speaker. I don't think I've been silent for more than 2 hours in my life." And she said, "Marcy, you need this." And she was very, very convincing. You may know her name is Janet Attwood. She wrote a book called The Passion Test, and she's very, very persuasive. And she dragged me away with her on this 7-day silent meditation retreat. And let me tell you, the first couple of days of that, I hated it. I was so frustrated that I couldn't talk. I was writing notes. But after a few days, I finally started settling in, and it started feeling really, really good. And on the fourth day, in the middle of one of my meditations, a light bulb went off in my head, and I saw the words, chicken soup for the woman's soul. And as soon as I saw those words, I knew that that's what I was supposed to do. I knew that that was a gift from the universe. And I was so excited. But there was one problem with this scenario. And the problem is, I still had 3 more days of silence. I had the great epiphany of my life, and I couldn't tell anybody. But as soon as the silence was over, I ran to the closest payphone, and I called up Jack Canfield, who was my mentor at the time, and I said, Jack, I've got it. Chicken soup for the woman's soul. And he said, oh my God, I can't believe it. Nobody's thought of that. What a great idea. At the time, the only book that was out was the original Chicken Soup for the Soul book. And he said, this was a great idea. So he called up the publisher, and the publisher said, oh my God, nobody's thought of this before. I can't believe it. What a great idea. And a year later, my first book came out. Now, had I not gone into silence, had I not done this practice, I don't believe I would have connected deeply enough to spirit to have had that message come through for me. I believe that was a turning point. That was a beautiful experience for me. Now, fast forward about 10 years later, it was about 2004, and I knew that it was time for me to write this book on happiness. I had been studying happiness at that point for already 6 or 7 years. I had seen the great results with it, and I knew that this is what I wanted to write about. I was teaching, I was sharing it with people, but I couldn't come up with the right title. You know, I had written down, I'd been brainstorming, and I'd written down about 200 titles, and none of them were quite it. So I thought, wait, 10 years ago, I went on that silent meditation retreat to come up with that, and look what happened. That book came to me, so I'm going to go away and see if I can come up with this title. I went away for only 4 days because I figured I'll be more efficient. The chicken soup idea came to me after 4 days of that other retreat. So I went away for 4 days, and sure enough, on the 4th morning, Happy for No Reason came to me. Total download, Happy for No Reason. As soon as I thought of it, I knew that was it. I knew that that was the essence of what I wanted to communicate, that this happiness that I'm talking about is about being happy for no reason. Pretty cool, huh? I now do a silent meditation retreat every year for at least a couple of days. So what I really encourage you to do is to practice silence and meditation. Not for a particular outcome, not because you're looking for a book title necessarily, but simply for the sake of connecting to spirit. And I recognize that, for most of us, it's not practical to go away on a 7-day silent meditation retreat. So what about a half day? What about a half a day a month? Just silence. And along with that, please include an electronics fast. That means no electronics for a half a day, or a full day is better if you can. 1 day. No telephone, no computer, no TV, no electronics, just you and silence. So that's my recommendation, to try it in your life and see what happens. But in the meantime, what I want you to do over these next few days is to keep up your 10 minutes of meditation and then your inner listening practice. It's ideal if you can do this first thing in the morning, because what it does, it helps your day get started off by feeling plugged in. So I'll end today with a quote from Gandhi, who said, "In the attitude of silence, the soul finds the path in a clearer light, and what is elusive and deceptive resolves itself into crystal clearness." So I'm wishing for you today a day of crystal clearness, a day of feeling plugged into your soul. And I'll see you tomorrow.